Good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. Actually, it's 7:01. We'll get started on this evening's work session. Thank you all for showing up this evening. I appreciate seeing everybody here. If you guys can, while you're at it, if you could keep Mr. Crook in your thoughts as he continues to heal. Um, this upcoming month, our invocation and pledge will be led by our District 6 commissioners. So our invocation will be by Amber Russell. Are you good with that? Wonderful. And then our pledge will be Alan Carmen. You're good with that, sir? Fantastic. You have a copy of the minutes. I would encourage you to review them for next week. The only announcement that I have is that Mr. Paxson will be on board here next week to have an overview of the upcoming election timeline. Is there any announcements that need to be made from the floor? Wonderful. At this time, I'd like to ask Mayor McCall if he has anything you'd like to address the commission with.
One thing I'd like to call to the attention of the court that TDOT is going to begin work on the bridge on Broadway right away. They'll be closing down Front Street from Broadway to Littleton, which is the road that turns by the post office. So there will be access there. They're going to close down that little section of road immediately. And then right after Thanksgiving, the bridge will become one lane. They're going to have the lights to let you in and out. They were telling us that it would be a maximum of 3 minutes, but because the stop sign is going to be involved, it's probably going to be pretty much of a snarl. And I think the outside date to finish the project is June. So it's probably going to be one lane on that street for 6 months. In order to repair the pylon, they're going to have to take down the entire left-hand lane as you go up Broadway, dig that out to get under the bridge. So it's going to be a lengthy and complicated process. But supposedly they had told us they would finish the project back in spring, but they're not getting it started until now. But right after Thanksgiving, there'll be needs for quite a bit of detouring downtown. Just wanted commissioners to be aware because some folks will be asking questions, I'm sure.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the mayor? Yes, go ahead, Chris.
Just out of curiosity, do we know how that will affect the Christmas parade? Because that typically goes down that route.
Ha. I asked that question when we met with TDOT last week. And they were telling me that there would be an 11-foot clearance. And I think that does not include 2 feet on each side of that 11-foot clearance, but we'll have to make the parade aware of probably no wide loads will be coming through there, but we'll get those measurements and make sure. I would think no combines will be in the parade this year to come across that bridge, but we'll get those specs to those who put the parade together to make sure that works. Someone suggested that I ask TDOT not to start on it until after the Christmas parade, but that was just not practical. So.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody else have any more questions for the mayor? Looks like our subcommittees have been meeting, establishing their reorganization and all that sort. That's really good. Look forward to hearing about that. We do not have any ordinances coming forward this month, or resolutions rather, my bad. The only ordinances that we have here is a first reading for ordinance 338, 2025, which is on page 14 of your packet. This is to rezone A1 to R1, parcel 028.032.04 on Old Highway 25. At this time, I'd like to call Miss Mayan to the stand if she'd like to speak to that.
Thank you, sir. So if you look in your packet, we've got Old Highway 25. I did include a zoning map as well. So there may not be R1 directly next to this parcel, but if you look at your zoning map, you will see that there is starting to be a trend where a lot of this property in this area along Highway 25 and going towards Old Highway 25 is starting to be R1. So what they're trying to do is they'd like to rezone this so that they could cut off 1 acre in the back of this parcel of land and add it to the farm that was sold to the gentleman. And this way it's going to help him with his fencing and everything. So that's why they're going down to R1 rather than A1, because they wouldn't be able to sell off part of this property. The Planning Commission, you'll see in the statement, did give this a favorable recommendation based on all the R1 in the area. And then also too, our planning consultant echoed the same sentiment. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Rosalie? Thank you. Budget amendments, just keep in mind this next week, we can take all these in one motion if that'd be the will of the body. These are covered on pages 22 through 25. At this time, it's going to cover 101 general services, 128 special funds, and 141 general purpose schools. And yes, that's it. If anybody has any questions or would like to speak to that, Chris?
Yeah, first, I was just going to ask, because I think the first two are fund balance draws, aren't they? But all these were heard by Budget and Finance tonight. All received favorable recommendations with no opposition.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Chris, please? All right, thank you. Under other business, this time there is a wheel tax proposal. You have a handout that each of you should have had this evening. At this time, I'd like to ask, this is going to be brought forward by Brendan Beller and Jerry Ford. Mr. Beller, would you like to speak to this, or would you like to speak to it first, Jerry? Either or. Go ahead, Mr. Beller.
What you have in front of you is a draft, and I want to emphasize the word draft. It's for your consideration. We've had a request to sponsor an ordinance to levy a countywide motor vehicle tax. You can see the rates. They've been highlighted. You should have a highlighted portion as it applies to those types of motor vehicles. $80 and then $50 for other types of vehicles like motorcycles and motor driven bicycles, scooters, side by sides, and low to medium speed vehicles. The allocation of the funds is set forth in section 7. And you'll see that it's the purpose is obviously funds that need to be addressed for a jail project and or potential school projects. And certainly those are things that Trowser County is needed, and this body is discussed many times. So again, it's just a proposal. It's a draft. It's for your consideration. It does have in it, it's got a built-in sunset provision of 20 years from the effective date of the first collection. That's under section 11. And on the back page, page 3, you will see what is the estimated amount of potential revenue that this could draw as a result of the vehicles. Now, it's my understanding, and Ms. Crowder, is she here? She's not here. Okay. It's my understanding that those are for motor vehicles only. Those are not under the $50 because I don't believe there was the data that I think, Mr. Ford, you may know more about that than I do.
Didn't have the data to tell us approximately how many dollars that'll bring in. She did tell me with the estimated number of vehicles, as you see there, is 11,410 vehicles. Bringing in at $80 each would be $912,800. But you gotta realize that we probably, well, we won't get 100% of that. Because there'll be a few that'll do every way they can to finagle around it and not do it. And the only other thing right there, you scooters and this other stuff that he talked about, since we don't know how many motorcycles and motor-driven bicycles and scooters and side-by-sides we have, the state was unable to give her amount of money that that'll bring in. But it will bring in, because I asked her, I said, how many do you think there are? And her words were, well, there's several. So maybe there'd be enough of that to offset what we don't get on the vehicles.
One of and I think we had had these discussions before. As you'll see set out actually in the ordinance itself, it does require 3 consecutive regularly scheduled meetings. Now, I know that our charter allows us to have our third reading on a second call reading. However, I'm going to ask leave of this body to go back and double check my research. I think it's actually because the state law says that it had to be 3 consecutive readings. Regardless, it does require a supermajority to pass this this ordinance to levy this type of tax, and beyond that, I think I've covered most everything except for I failed to get with Mr. Paxson and make sure get the point of place when it could be put on in the election cycle. So.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for either Jerry or for Brendan?
Would there questions if you don't care? Having gotten with Mr. Potts more than once, 43% of the people on the property in this county. It happened about 4 or 5 years ago, it was 38%. With all the building explosion that we've had, along with partnering with the state, his figure says that we got about 43% that actually own the property. It's hard to say if it went up for referendum, how people would vote. Well, we know what happened to that 1.5 cent sales tax. It got the heck beat out of it. I don't know what this would do. I was on the, matter of fact, Pat Ferguson and myself, we drew up to the one that built the high school down there. A lot of people says, well, there ain't no way you can build that for 8.1 million. Well, that's what the contractor estimated. And one of the prominent men in the county, I won't mention no names, before you get that built, it'll cost 15 million. I said, no. Most all ventures you go into like that, and I'm sure you may know, I'm not sure it's still the way it was, but you got a 10% contingency fee. And you cannot exceed that fee. Now, I don't know if this building will have it on or not. I know it was back then, but that's what was on the high school.
It's not unless you end up in a situation where there's an excessive amount of change orders. The change orders that are initiated by the client will then in turn increase the price of the project. And that can sometimes exceed your contingency, but that has to be an agreed upon situation between the client and the architect and the builders.
You can see what Mr. Beller and Tommy and myself decided how we would allocate this 40, 40, and 20. But if the court needed some of that money for something else, correct me, Amy, if I'm wrong, all they'd have to do would be present a resolution and this court would have to pass it. Are you saying that's not right?
Are you saying if it were to change it within the 20-year term, is that what you're stating?
Well, yeah,
Or
the appropriation.
Oh, right. The allocation, yes.
Right.
Right, again, this is just for consideration. It's a
Right.
draft only.
That's
It's
exactly
something
right.
for the entire body to consider about what your options are.
That's right. I wanted people to know that up front because I don't know how many, if it'd be a lot of us won't be here when it comes down to making a decision where you're gonna spend 25, 35 million to build a jail, because you ain't spending 35 million, you're spending 70 million. 35 is building, but you gotta have that other, pay the interest on it. And so,
Does anybody have any questions regarding this? Yes, I'm sorry, Landon, you were first.
I guess two questions. First, the county clerk's 5%. Does that money go similar to the trustees, 1%? So it would end up back in general anyway. Would there be a consideration then as we look forward to general being at 15 so that there's still the same 20%? That's all I'm saying on that part of the total going that way. This way it would actually have 25. And the other, I didn't see anywhere in here about where these funds are going to be allocated to. So what account are we wanting to look into going into, and what do we need to have set up in the event to know where those funds are going to be distributed to?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Thomas because we had that very conversation last week. Go ahead.
So when I'm looking at this, my interpretation, the jail capital outlay and the general capital outlay, that's your Fund 171. Your educational capital outlay, I believe that is 143 with the schools. So, and I would just basically dog ear, should this go through, I would dog ear, the jail amount and separate that from the general, so we know what that reserve is within that fund.
Inside the 171, two areas. But you're also saying 143 already exists. My apologies, Chair. 143 is already in place, available, just has no funds in it.
I honestly, give me a second. I'm sorry, it is not 143, that is central cafeteria. So the schools would need to open up another fund under the 140 block of funds that they can choose from. So it would be a new fund. Unless they choose to do it under the 141 and create a reserve that way for capital projects. I personally wouldn't do that, but I don't know how the schools would want to set that up.
Landon,
I was just gonna say, I would imagine they'll come up with a decent way. If we're gonna put 300 something thousand towards it, I'm sure that they would have a plan. Just wanted to make sure we had an idea of what those would be on our end.
thank you. Judy, go ahead, you were next.
I just wanted to make a comment that I was contacted by a constituent, a retired banker, who stated that we were elected to make these kind of decisions. And he suggested that we do not take it to vote, that we do the vote ourselves.
Counselor.
The way this is set up, this is for the county commission to make a decision on. Now, you can't stop if they want to pull it a certain amount of, I think, believe it's 10% of the last gubernatorial election. Signing a petition can pull it to referendum, all right? So, but the way this is set up, this is designed for this commission to review and come up with an answer for this issue.
Chris, you were next, and then Jerry.
Yeah, while I agree with Judy, and I've said here more than one occasion that I thought this commission needed, if we were going to pass a wheel tax, that this commission needed to do it. I also remember, if memory serves, I think that the mood of the body was pretty well split on whether to do it ourselves and have it go to a referendum. With an election next year, I think I would now be of mind to put it before the voters, rather than do it ourselves. Like I said, I'm not opposed to doing it ourselves, but like I said, with an election less than a year away, and the general split among the body, I think we might be better served to go ahead and get it to try to get it to a referendum.
Jerry,
About this. This year, we voted 12% or 12 cents added to our budget to give people raises and bonuses. We can't keep falling back on the property owners in this county. Somewhere down the road's got to stop. And you look at it, what have we got? Sales tax and property tax. That's it. We take in, Amy, correct me, roughly $1 million a year in sales tax, or maybe a little under. It's close, isn't it? Look at our neighboring counties, Wilson County, Sumner County. They take in over $100 million a year. And how do we compete with that? And most all the counties around have wheel taxes. Some of us higher and some's a little bit lower. But we're sitting here, smallest county in the state, wanting to build a $30 million building. And as of right now, the only way you can get it is fall back on the property owner. And you're talking 60 to 70 cent increase on your taxes. So I'd give it a long, hard thought, because you know what happened to that half-cent sales tax? What, a year and a half ago? Got beat almost 3-1. When you got 57 versus 43, it can be a pretty hard road to travel.
go ahead, Beverly.
I'm in agreement with this 100%. I think it hits across the board. The only thing that I would like to have further discussion about is in section 11, just the 20-year span. I think, and I don't know if we can do it, but I think we can, is maybe look at it more frequently, just with the cost of inflation, if it were to come that items needed to be allocated in a different manner, or we needed to increase the amount. Is that even possible, Mr. Beller?
It's possible. Again, some of that 20-year may be arbitrary, all right, maybe 30 years. We might want to look at the numbers pretty carefully and see what we're funding. If, let's just use a hypothetical, and I'm just throwing out an arbitrary figure, 35 million for to build a jail. All right. So we know, we think we know that 900,000 is going to be the annual draw off a wheel tax. So, and only a portion of that is being allocated to a jail. And I'm using this as an example only. We'll have to have combination of other pennies on property tax or other revenue sources to fund that over that sort of 20 years may not be enough. So you're spot on. So you can remove the sunset provision all the way around if you want to do that. That's another option. So again, this is something that needs to be explored by the commission and given due thoughtful to us. And I'd like to respond to Mr. Gregory's comment about going to a referendum right out of the gate. I've actually been involved in doing wheel taxes in other counties before, and I think a lot of times that if the folks understand what it's going toward or what it's for, and they're well informed ahead of time, the likelihood of referendum doesn't become necessary. So, you've got time. And so my recommendation, and Mr. Gregg, you're well and versed in communications and journalism, sir. It would probably behoove you to be able to publicize a bit, you know, that this body's considering that. So if the people want to speak to it, then they can come in here and be well informed about what's going on in a public forum. That's what government does. So I think that, again, the design of this is for this body to make the decision on it. And I think that if you do pass something and you say, okay, this is what we as the commission agree upon, if they want to pull it to a referendum, then so be it. But it needs to be in the form that it's pulled as approved by this county commission. Does that make sense? Okay.
Commissioner Thomas.
No one wants another tax. I mean, that's the way it is. But the way the county is set up, we need more revenue. So there is an idea that's been floating around of doing what some other municipalities have done. In Elizabethton, Kentucky, they're in the building process of an amphitheater right now that the city owns. Brandon, Mississippi, they did theirs in 2018. It's been very profitable. $8-9 million a year going to the city. I would suggest that maybe we need to investigate that, being an hour outside of Nashville with 141 coming out to some very large properties, that maybe instead of spending 30-40 million on a jail that's just going to cost us money over and over, we look at building a facility that will make the county money, take some burden off the taxpayers, and pay for a jail.
Anybody else have anything? Yes, Jerry.
I'll give you another option. I happen to be friends with a man up in Burkesville, Kentucky. I met with him the other day because he traveled to Africa with me. I went up to see Mike and we sat down and talking about building this jail. He said, why don't y'all do like Burkesville? And I said, what do you mean? He said, they take their inmates somewhere else. They don't even have a jail. That's something you might want to think about. Because when we build that jail and put this much money out there, your grandkids are going to have to finish paying for it. That's an option I hadn't heard before, but their county's doing that.
Mr. Nollner. Thank you, sir.
The half a penny that got voted down, can that be brought back up, or can we vote on it ourselves and pass it?
Half penny, they're trying to clarify. The half penny, talking about the sales tax? Mr. Beller?
My memory serves me correct, the sales tax has to go to the referendum period. That's not within the purview of this commission. Certainly, that's something that is a funding mechanism, sales tax, combination of sales tax, property tax, and wheel tax. But again, that's something that it would have to, any project like this, and I'm just going based on what I've seen in my experience. The general public has to be informed that that's why the sales tax is being increased. Of course, that it would be going towards some type of capital improvement or something of that nature, if that's in fact the purpose.
Yes, Judy.
I just want to make the comment that we need to remember the state of Tennessee doesn't ask us what, if we want taxes put on us. I bought a hybrid car to save money, and now I have to pay an extra $100 a year every time I get my tag because they lost state gas tax. So everybody raises taxes and puts money because we've got to survive and we've got to provide our county with what we need.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything on this topic?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Jerry.
Are we talking on this here? Are we
Bubba.
talking about voting for the first reading in November? Or is this just for discussion right now to bring up in January or February?
I'm not recommending this be put on the November. And I discussed that with Mr. Ford about that, to not do that. Now is a good time to bring it up because you've got several months where you can talk to your constituency. You can make sure, think about it, be informed. So the timing on bringing this up is good. And then come January, at least we've got some direction and maybe we have a more solid format for going forward.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything on this topic? Okay, I was going to ask at this time, Commissioner Thomas, do you have any updates on our zoning regulations that was brought forward?
Yeah, so at our codes and zoning subcommittee meeting, Rosalie had gone through and dog-deered some editing that needed to take place. So, and it was small things. A couple of entities that were listed in the zoning, the state changed their name. And when Mr. Gregory did the convert, he just converted exactly what was in the old. So that needed to be edited and updated. So those are all being done at this moment. Still wanted to give Mr. Beller time to do his third review that he was discussing the last time we talked. So we're going to present that again at to the Planning Commission since it's been changed in December, and try to have that if the body is willing to vote on it in January.
Thank you. Does anybody have? Yes, Jerry.
We passed that wheel tax 21 years ago to build that high school. If we hadn't have passed that, then that 8.1 plus the contingency, if there were any, would have had to come from your property owners. And your property tax today would be quite a bit more because of it. But we let everybody in the county pay for it.
Thank you. Wheel tax is the most fair.
Fair tax that they are.
Yes. I don't see that anybody from the public came to sign in for a comment. And do we have any other business that needs to come forward, the commission, for this work session? Just a reminder, typically we do not meet in December. And I just hope everybody has a great week, and we look forward to seeing you back here next Monday. And at this time, I'd take a motion to adjourn. A motion from Jerry and a second from Chris. Thank you very much. Have a good night.